Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for Murachs, JavaScript and jQuery 3rd edition, and this is part of the AWD or Application Web Development 1000 Web Technologies class. Alright, we're in the middle of talking about functions, and now we're going to push on and go over to events. Like most other programming languages, JavaScript is known as an event-driven programming language. What that means, for lack of better words, is that JavaScript sits there while the program is running and waits for you to do something. For example, you clicking a button would cause a click event to happen. Now, some of these events happen naturally. For instance, notice there's a window load event. Alright, so when something is loaded into memory, the document has been loaded in the browser, you can cause something to happen. When a button is clicked, you can cause something to happen. When a control, like a text box or whatever, gets the focus, in other words, when the mouse is there, the cursor is there, or when it leaves, that's a blur event, or with some of these controls, when you change the value in a control or you select a control, and different elements when you single click them or double click them or roll your mouse over them, put your mouse in or take your mouse out type of an idea. So when you work with this, you have to associate what are called event handlers with this stuff. And an event handler is a function that's executed when an event occurs. It's known as handling the event, hence the name. So you code an event handler like you code any other function. Now, after you've coded the event handler, what you have to do is you have to attach the event handler to an event. To do that, you must first specify the object and the event that triggers the event handler. Then you assign the event handler to the event. And I know it sounds fairly complex, and it is until you start working with it. All right, so it says here we've got an event handler named joinList. All right. So we will eventually handle join list, and when we do, that alert will come up, and any other statements that we put in here will run. All right. So this says what we want to do is we've got a button that is named, its ID is submit button. When we click that button, we want to call the join list routine, so that'll call this routine. So what this is doing is this is attaching the join list function. All right, it's associating it or attaching it with the submit button's on-click event. All right, now is that easy to understand? Probably not. But again, what you have to start realizing is the event handler for these different events can be used to attach code so that when the event fires, all right, or when the event happens, remember it's an event-driven language, you can make sure that whatever happens is what you want to have happen. So they've got this email thing in here again, and look what they're doing. All right, they're saying right here, when you load this into memory, associate the join list click button. So when you click the button that's got an ID of join list, run the join list function. All right. When you change the value that's in the thing with the ID of email address, call the change value method. So that's this right here. So when you click the button, it's going to say the join list function is run. When you put something different in the text box for the email address, it'll say the change value function is being run. So there you see it. See how we're putting something in there, and boom, it shows it. All right, next they go through, and I believe this is how the chapter ends, is with two different applications. So they're going through, and again, they are writing an event-driven miles per gallon program, and then they're going to write the event-driven email list or join list application. So these programs, as you can see, are getting much more complex. All right, we've got our alias function in here. Now we've got unnamed function or an anonymous function where we're putting in all of our miles per gallon stuff. All right? And you'll notice that what's happening in here is this is simply miles divided by gallons, and they're doing a to fixed, and then they're returning it. What are they returning that to? What's calling calculate MPG? Down here. This process entries is validating our data, and if it's all valid, it's going to call calculate miles per gallon. Then in the onload function, all right, when the onload method, I should say, we're associating the process entry function with you clicking the calculate button, and we're telling the cursor to go into the miles text box when we begin, and that's the first one. So when we run this, our cursor will be right here. As long as we put a valid number here, and we click the calculate button, we'll get the answer here. You may or may not be able to tell, too, this field is disabled. That's why it's gray in color. Because once we put an answer here, put a value here and a value here and click, we shouldn't be able to change that answer. In much the same way, we've got our email list. All right? This is an email list like we were introduced to in Chapter 1. However, if we look quickly here at the code that goes with it, all right, you'll notice we're doing validation inside of our join list method. So we're grabbing the two values and the value for the first name. So we're grabbing the email address of both of them and the first name. What are we looking for? First, that we put something in here, and in here. Second, that what we put in here is an actual email address. Third, that what we put in here is an actual email address. And fourth, that they're the same email addresses. And that's what we're doing code-wise in here. And then when we get done in the onload event, we're associating clicking the join list button with running the join list routine, and we're giving the focus to the email address. So here you can see this is what's going to happen if we put something invalid in here. And as the author says on the bottom, this example provides better validation. And we're providing validation at the client side for our user running the code. We don't want to click a button that says calculate MPG that could conceivably send this information out to a server someplace, only to have the server find out that the data is invalid and have to send it back to the client or the browser machine. All right, that can be very frustrating on both ends. Here's a future calculator app. All right, there's a sales calculator app and a change calculator app and an income tax calculator app. All right, so what we're moving to, as it says, with this example, what do we want to do? Well, clear both entries when you click the miles per gallon text box. So in other words, you put a value here, you put a value here, you click, you get your answer. So I put 400 here, I put 20 here, I click calculate MPG, I get 20.0 here. All right. If I click that in, click this box again, if I double click in the miles per gallon box, the value in here clears, the value in here clears, and the value in here clears. And the cursor goes back here so I can start all over again. All right. So that was a very quick little intro into this world. So when I come back in Chapter 5, we've got a shorter chapter where we're going to talk about how to test and how to debug a JavaScript application. So I'll be back with that shortly.